No, I think Lauren should give me up a thumbs up. So Lauren should do it.
Hi, okay, if everyone wants to get started, my name is Neha Madira. I'm a freelance journalist with a focus in health and education, specifically in the Middle East and South Asia. Today, our panel is going to be talking about breaking the pattern in regards to girls in STEM and the global fight for access. Just to kind of give everyone a little bit of a briefing about what the panel will be about, I'm going to read our kind of main focus and then go into everyone's bios. So, despite progress in education access broadly, less than a third of STEM graduates worldwide are women, illustrating the persistent gender gap in STEM education globally. Women's Intercultural Network is hosting a youth led panel, which is this one, highlighting global inequities faced by women and girls in the field of STEM. And the panelists today are from a diverse array of cultural backgrounds, and they're going to be shedding a little bit of light on discrimination from social norms, dissuading girls from science to structural barriers at school. And we'll also be talking a little bit about policies and programs that have successfully improved girls' access to STEM education. Kind of going into the bios first. One of our first speakers will be Samin Changani. She is a college student majoring in biology and psychology with plans to pursue a career in medicine. She is a strong advocate for the rights of young girls and women, believing that every individual deserves the opportunity to pursue their ambitions without limitation from cultural or societal expectations. As a Persian immigrant, she has experienced differing cultural perspectives and is dedicated to empowering the next generation of women to pursue their goals with confidence and support. She's also one of the founding members of the UN Association Orange County Youth Council, the president of the UN Association Irvine Valley College chapter, and recipient of the 2025 Joy Adams Memorial Leadership Scholarship. Our next speaker will be Caden Choi. Caden is a nationally and internationally recognized photographer with a passion for both journalism and education. Committed to breaking down barriers in education, she strives to expose her generation to global news and equip them with the tools to think critically, engage with global issues, and lead with purpose. She serves as one of two Global Goals Ambassadors for Quality Education on behalf of the UN Foundation and the UN Association. Caden also serves as a youth council member on the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls and is co-author of the education section of the 2026 California Girls Agenda. As part of the Education Task Force, she has advocated for the advancement of STEM education for girls and other populations underrepresented in the field of science and technology. Next, Mahanaz Soki. Mahanaz is a computer science major at Asian University for Women with a strong interest in robotics and emerging technologies in Bangladesh. Through hands-on projects and technological exploration, she has developed a passion for building solutions that combine innovation with a real-world impact. Originally from Afghanistan, Mahanaz draws from her lived experiences to better understand the systemic challenges that limit girls' access to STEM education. She's particularly interested in how technology can serve as a bridge, expanding opportunity, increasing representation, and challenging deeply rooted inequalities. She views technology not just as a field of study, but as a platform for change. Mahnaz is committed to contributing to a future where more girls are encouraged, supported, and empowered to pursue careers in science and technology. My first question, Samina, if you want to start, is why were you interested in pursuing a STEM related career in the first place?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. I think for me, I've grown up watching both my parents either originally start in STEM or go on to STEM. My dad was a civil engineer back in Iran. My mom was a lawyer. And then when we moved to the US, they continued their same passions. But my mom switched to go over to med school. She went to med school and she became a radiologist. And then now she's back to law. Um, but I think it's also just my love for the human body that makes me want to pursue medicine, and also expectations from my family. My family didn't believe that I would like graduate university and then go into a field. They expected me to go maybe like get a master's in something and then get married and then have children and pursue that path. But my parents here really pushed me to go to university to pursue what I love. And that's what started my love for STEM in the first place.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Kaden, if you want to go next and kind of talk a little bit about your experiences as well.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for making it to the panel today. My name is Kaden. I am a student in California, and I personally am not, um, pursuing STEM in the future. I, in fact, would love to pursue something in the humanities, whether that's anthropology, studying cultures, or political science. But as a proud STEM ally, I, have consistently seen throughout different cultures, whether that's in Chinle, Arizona, with the Navajo population, or in Jeju Island in Korea, where my people are from, or where my family is from. I've seen consistent struggles in inequities, specifically facing women and girls in education, and specifically in STEM education as well. And so, while I'm not pursuing STEM, I am a consistent ally, and I'm a consistent, just rooting figure for all of the women and girls who are doing things to improve women and girls in computer science as education, whether that's at the public high school level or the collegiate level, as well as in the workforce. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Kaden. Mahnaz, if you want to go next and kind of talk a little bit about your experiences as well and why you wanted to pursue a STEM-related career.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mahnaz, and I'm a computer science student with experience in robotic project. My interest in technology began when I started exploring robotics and hands-on learning. Through this experience, I realized how powerful STEM education can be in shaping skill, confidence, and further opportunities. Well, although many girls attend schools today, they often do not receive the same encouragement or to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In many places, STEM is still seen as a field mainly for men. But I would say that fortunately in my family, that was the first place that I have got a lot of beliefs and everything from my family, especially my mom, that I have to start working in robotics. And then they were always so supportive. So I just maybe drive me through this world. And then I'm so happy that I can find myself here. And then, I found my interest when I was maybe exploring robotics in Afghanistan. And now I am working on project with my sister. And yeah, so by then I started, maybe experiencing some other inequalities and some maybe cultural barriers in the maybe STEM education or maybe in the way that I was starting to learn something. And by that, I try to pursue others and then maybe make sure of myself that how good and then maybe a great person a girl can be in STEM education.
Thank you so much, Mahanaz. And I also know that you and your sister are working on a project, which I would love for you both to talk about towards the end of the panel. For me personally, at a time where there is just so much conflict happening around the world, it's so empowering and encouraging to get to kind of talk to everyone about these more positive changes and things that we're trying to do within these workforces. One of the first questions that I have, whoever wants to go ahead and start, are just how has pursuing STEM kind of affected your lives whenever you first decided to pursue this as a career or within education? Just how when was the moment, I guess, did you realize that it was going to be a life-shaping moment?
Yeah. It was with me. Could you please repeat your questions? Because I was like having a little bit of network connection.
Oh, that's okay. My primary question, it's kind of a loaded question, is what was the moment in which you realized when you were going to pursue STEM as your career? When did you realize that it was going to be kind of a life-shaping moment for you and positively affect your life and others around you?
Okay, so If I be honest with you, I wasn't like so much interested at the beginning because I thought like it's some of the education that, or maybe some of the things that my mom want me to learn. But then later I found myself maybe thinking about the new ideas to maybe invent some new kind of robots and all those stuff. And then I realized how powerful can STEM be. And by that, I maybe found myself being more curious about new project or maybe a new invention. And then after I read a lot about them, I could maybe see myself in that world. So I start maybe searching a little bit more. I like had a lot of discussion with my sisters, but she's so talented in that part. And I told her that, you see, I am not that talented, but I really want to be in this world because, you know, this is what makes me feel me, because I do have a lot of ideas and I really want to apply them. So that's where the idea of maybe working in this pattern or maybe working in STM came, and I'm still stuck with it. And hopefully that would be for the future as well.
That's very
Sorry.
lovely, and it's a great segue to one of my next questions. But did anyone else want to answer as well?
Yeah, can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. My main question is, whenever you decided you wanted to pursue a career within STEM, what was a moment where you kind of realized that it was going to positively affect your life, not just yours, but others around you as well? It could be a moment in a class, it could be a project that you had an idea for, it could really be anything.
So I pursued STEM, as I said, because I really fell in love with the human body. I fell in love with like the science portion of it. And then I also volunteer at the local hospital. So I get to interact with the patients there and I get to talk to them and I get to like bring them tea and bring them water. But when I was volunteering once, there was this one lady who was in the hospital and she started talking to me. She was like, "Oh, my daughter, she won't, she always brings me a bunch of tea. She always does this for me, does that for me." And she's like, and then the doctor walked in along with a few nurses. And the lady asked me, "Oh, what do you want to pursue?" And I was like, and I told her I wanted to go into medicine, go and become a surgeon. And she was like, "I can't wait to see what type of impact you're gonna make." And that really made me fall in love with going into medicine even more because a lady who just met me like 5, 10 minutes ago said she couldn't wait to see what I was gonna do. And that actually empowered me way more to want to go into science.
I honestly love that response. I feel like the community around you, especially when you first start gathering interest in any career field, can be a really, really motivating factor. And it's a great segue to my next question, which, in terms of your communities around you, your family, your friends, your loved ones, random people that you meet as you're going about your day, how have they influenced you to continue pursuing STEM within your lives?
Okay, so can we go? Yeah. So I really love this question because it's a bit tricky, and then I can really relate to that because once I remember that I actually saw that in a very past time when we were like so young, and then there was like a lot of things happening in Afghanistan, and like I'm originated from there, and we have grown there, and then the journey in STM or robotics has started from there, and it was so dangerous for like as a girl to maybe go somewhere and study such topics such as robotic and all those stuff because it was a bit dangerous and tricky, but still my mom accepted that. And then later I found like she had a little bit fight with my dad because my dad was so worried about me and Masa as like safety, and they would say it like it is so dangerous. Some of the girl has maybe lost their life due to maybe attending that classes. But then later I found my mom crying in a corner, and then she was like, I really want you guys to be in this career, and I really want you to maybe improve yourself. And then it just maybe change something in me, and maybe in my passion, because seeing my mom maybe struggling to maybe bring us into such places, or maybe bring us into new places where it's really dangerous for women or girls, but still she pursued and maybe fight with my father to maybe allow us to go and maybe attend that classes. And then I could remember like all of my relatives, everyone around us, maybe we could call them society, would say that nobody is studying engineering, nobody's doing the robotics, and it's gonna be like worthless for your girls. They can maybe do some other stuff such as like a public health, or maybe becoming a dentist, because that's really really popular in my country, or I would say like in my area. And then everybody else were disagree with my mom. And then my mom would say that like we originally don't have any brother, and then she was like, okay, I don't have any boy, but I want to raise my girls such like they don't need any man in their life, or they can become the man of their life. So it just maybe changed something. And I can remember that everybody else would like disagree with my mom, but then still she pressured everything, and then she accepted, and then sent us through that classes to attend and maybe learn something in robotics, or maybe in STEAM education.
That's so lovely that your mom was an advocate for you at a time where you didn't really feel like you had another choice. Does anyone else have any experiences that they want to share that might be similar to this or completely different?
Yeah, so one side of my family is very, very traditional, right? It's always women have to stay at home, take care of the kids, do the cooking and cleaning. And the other side of my family is very non-traditional. Like my grandma worked for herself. She had her own sewing business back in a time where most women cooked and cleaned and stayed at home. But depending on whatever you choose, I think you should have a right to either want to work or stay at home. And then the other side of my family, the women in my family maybe got like a bachelor's in math. They got a master's in math, or a language or science. But then as soon as they hit maybe 23, 24, they were married off, right? And in my family, the same side that is very traditional, I was always the very loud cousin. I was the cousin that was very energetic. I was a very mischievous child. And my family soon realized that they couldn't rein me in. And then as soon as I started growing up, I hit maybe middle school, high school, they I have an older cousin. She's also a girl. Um, they the plan for her was that she was going to pursue biology for until maybe she got her master's, and then she was going to get married. And my parents told me that, oh, you have to go all the way. Like you have to, my mom especially, she was like, you have to be able to make a career for yourself. I'm not gonna let you not go all the way. I'm not gonna let you only get a master's and get married. I'm gonna make you become that doctor or become a lawyer or become an engineer. My dad also agreed. He was like, you have to pick a field that is going to, where you're going to work hard for it, right? I immigrated to the US at around 4, and I think that's where I do, like, where society there in Iran and society here completely differ, right? Here, girls have a bunch more freedom. Over there in Iran, if you hit, my cousin is 12. She doesn't look 12, she looks 15. We tried to take her to a park where a police officer stopped us, and she was like, "Oh, she has to cover up. Why is she wearing a t-shirt? Why is she not wearing a hijab?" I think that in Iran, there's an expectation where women stay at home, cook and clean. And here it's like you can be anything you want, which was like growing up was I had the wildest dreams. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be an astronaut and I'm gonna be a vet and I'm gonna be this and that. But I think that my family has the push from my family and society here has really made me want to become something in STEM. Not just because it's not just because it's like a field where that makes a lot of money, but because it's a field where I actually get to push myself further and further every single day.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Samin. And does anyone else want to answer before I move on to the next question? No? It honestly leads great into my next question, which is talking a little bit talking a little bit more about being not, if not an immigrant, first generation. How has that experience, in regards to pretty much all of us who have not either fully grown up here or who, our families decided to have us pursue an education here. How has being an immigrant or first generation impacted your wants and your aspirations to pursue STEM within your career fields?
I think being an immigrant has really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I think if you're born in a country as open as the US, I think you forget that some people that live in other countries aren't as lucky as you are. Um, I sometimes, if the timing is right, go back to visit my family in Iran. Now, of course, the timing isn't right with everything going on. But both of my cousins that are at a university age have decided to pursue a STEM major, and I see the harshness that they face. They can't in the summer, my cousin has to drive an hour and a half just to get to her university because it's the best STEM university around her. But I also think that being an immigrant has made me realize that, oh, I am very, very fortunate and very, very lucky to live in a world like this. That I'm free to study whatever I want to study and be what I want to be. That's very cliche, but I think it's very true.
I would absolutely love to Um, just add on to Samin, thank you so much for your words about your experiences being an immigrant, with your family's support. My parents both immigrated to the United States from Korea when they were very young. My dad actually immigrated just when he was right about my age, and so I can just imagine how hard it must have been for him to, try to pursue STEM. I know a lot of the time he tells this story to me where he's like, Kaden, I used to tell people growing up that, I'm going to move to America and I'm going to become a doctor. And, he said the primary reaction was, people just laughed at me, they didn't believe in me. But I think that just having America as that foundation to allow people to pursue their careers, to allow people to pursue STEM education in the fields that they desire is just really special. And so even if, I myself am not studying STEM, I am consistently inspired by those around me and my family. And I feel like there's also a sort of maybe common misconception that everyone in America has equal access and opportunity to STEM education. And while that's certainly true for a lot of the states, specifically in California, I think that there is also a large gap and a large disparity in the sort of visibility and awareness surrounding STEM education, specifically for women and girls. I myself am an example of that because I'm not involved in computer science. I never had coding resources or I never really had people inspiring me to, pursue certain fields in STEM education. And, just to draw a short statistic, only a quarter of the computer science jobs are occupied by women. And in that, I believe only 5% of the California population of about 1.9 million high school students, only 5% of them are currently enrolled in STEM and computer science courses. And, only about half of the California high school districts, that is public high school districts, are actually continuously and currently offering computer science as a course. And so I think just those short statistics there have really helped me realize that you know, while we do have opportunities and while we are continuously pursuing our STEM opportunities, there's also a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room for us to be able to learn as family members of immigrants and as immigrants ourselves. And so I think there's definitely a lot more inspiring that we can do. And yeah, I'll give the floor back to you, Neha.
Thank you so much, Kaden, for sharing. And before moving on to my next question, I did want to give Masa a chance to introduce herself as well and talk about a few different reasons as to why she wanted to pursue STEM within her education and workplace.
Thank you so much. So, hello everybody, this is Mahsa Tufi and I'm from Afghanistan. I'm sister of Manas Tufi and I'm 21 years old and student of Asian University for Women. And also, my major is computer science, of course. And then the reason that why I have interest on this field is I remember the first day that I joined as a team of Afghan robotic team members, in the courses. There was a really like the student of inspiration and how they are interest on this field makes me to really interest on this field. For example, there was one day that a teacher shares a video with us and is asked us about that. Okay, how can we improve this one? And then the students are really had a good job, and then they made a robot from it. And then after that, I realized that wow, like the girls are also really, 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 have that inspiration as a man, and also and it's like a equal, and you're really interested on this field and really really intelligent on this field, so it makes me to stand up and do on this field.
Thank you so much, Masa. And kind of paralleling off of a little bit about what Kaden talked about, apart from California itself, globally, women hold just 28.2% of the global STEM workforce. And I think that kind of goes to show that even the women who pursue these careers within STEM anyways, they face several inequities in the workforce, such as systemic biases, lower pay, fewer leadership roles, and limited funding as well for individual research projects. Does anyone want to start by sharing some of these challenges or obstacles that they have faced in their own pursuance of education, in projects that they've tried to start, things like that? Manas, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, yeah. So I really do have a story about this, and I can actually say about my own experience when me and Masa came to Bangladesh for the first time, and like it was 2023, and it was our first time like being in another country, but still we somehow managed it like well because there are a lot of new like goals that we have met, and then they really encourage us to maybe continue the pattern that we have like the robotics because we have lost like maybe all of our students like they will work with us but then they suddenly shift back to Qatar, but we couldn't actually go with them, so we always had the courage, so we actually asked a couple of more people like to maybe help us to maybe bring this idea or maybe bring this talent up so other people or especially the girls around us could actually benefits from it or maybe learn, because we have seen like a lot of students were so much passionate about this, and then we were like telling them about our story. They were like, okay, can you teach us because we really want to get into this career and all this stuff. But then again, when we ask people, which I would specifically say that the opposite gender and those were like I would say authorities that we have met, and that they would said like this is not made for the girls, and I'm sure that nobody would ever wanted to support us. So we don't want to do some project that they are waste of money. And then that I could say like broke me and Massa into pieces because being passionate about something, seeing other girls wanted to try it, or you just need some materials, and then again for some money that people would just maybe try to maybe give comments or maybe give their opinions that how miserable your life would be if it's not work out very well, which I was sure that it would maybe our first project would be better than the project that we have maybe tried to restart in 2025. But it's like we have seen like more of the people were like into some other stuff, such as like maybe I would say like cult, or maybe some parts which girls are not actually allowed to be there. And then again, like we have seen inequalities for the first time. And it was like maybe so shocking for us, but then again, we accepted it and we said that, okay, we are here for the education, so we don't want to be ungrateful for that. But then again, if we find any other opportunities, we would go for it. And then for later, I would say about our story and how we started in 2025 again.
Thank you so much, Mahnaz, for sharing. Did anyone else want to also talk about a few obstacles that they have faced, whether that's personally or in regards to other people, telling them about what they should or should not pursue when it comes to STEM in their careers?
This is so I don't know if you guys know, but in Iran you have to take a test that's going to determine what your career is going to be. Even if you're so passionate about pursuing medicine, or if you're so passionate about wanting to be an engineer, if you don't have the grades, you can't do that. My cousin, she was very interested in going into like aerospace and going to that portion of engineering, but her test scores and the committee didn't allow her to. So she's happy with the career that she's going to get in computer science. But I think one of the biggest challenges for the women in Iran is that they aren't allowed to, for women and men in Iran, they aren't allowed to pursue what they actually want to, right? My dad wanted to go into physics. He wanted to be a physics major. He he got into civil engineering, right? They didn't allow him to become a physicist. But when you look at STEM percentages, I think it was around 66% of the STEM applicants are women. So in Iran, I think the problem isn't with pursuing STEM, it's about getting a job afterwards. Because I believe it was like 17%, only 17% of women in Iran are actually a part of the workforce, STEM and non-STEM related. So when you think about the 90 million people that live in Iran, only a very, very small fraction of people who work are women. I think the biggest problem there is allowing women to work. I think the biggest job that most women have is as teachers, right? You can see women being principals and teachers because they have all girls schools, but you don't see as many women being part of being engineers. You don't see a lot of women being civil engineers, electrical engineers. But personally, I haven't faced challenges socially other than people that live in Iran telling me that I'm not doing the right thing and I should get married. I think I think the biggest obstacles that exist are when you want to enter the workspace. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there.
No, you didn't at all. And I think it honestly kind of goes to show whether or not you face these challenges personally. Regardless, there are these structural issues within workplaces themselves all around the world that, regardless of how hard you work, don't want to let you into these spaces to begin with. And I think kind of moving forward from that as well, what are some ideas or just different things that you guys have wanted to use as motivational factors, seeing these things happen within communities? How have you used that to kind of motivate you to keep going?
Okay, I want to answer this one. For me, it's like, as Manos mentioned, when we first come in AW, it's a place for women that usually they are really motivated, the woman, and then in every field and every field and every different field and working. But it's like when we came here, it was at the first they are stuck at because of they say that it's a lot of money and we cannot afford it. And second, and then after again we are started again, me and Mahmoud again with our own budget. We say that okay, we pay for our own budget. We need to me and Mahmoud and another person that we actually want to make a project on this field. We ask that okay, if you're not let us to if you're just saying that the money is a problem, so then we want to start again with our own budget, but we just let us to stay in the same campus, but that we can work on our project. But the authority again say us that you all came here for studying, you're not came here for this type of thing, so just leave it on the back. And then I was motivated from there that I will show you my project one day, and then you will see that how I'm gonna improve myself.
Thank you, Masa, for sharing. Does anyone else have anything they want to contribute in regards to that before we kind of move on to some future goals and aspirations as well? Okay.
So I
Oh,
would go,
um,
oh, sorry. So yeah, I would go ahead and say one more thing that is really important for any girls around there, or maybe around the world that want to start, or maybe already doing some work in STM, is that failure is actually part of learning, because which step you're taking is not actually going to work out very well. But then again, the next step is going to be better than the previous one. So I would say like each move, or maybe each step that we are going ahead, or maybe failure that we are facing, is a part of learning. At the end, we will definitely get the result anyway. So just to motivate yourself is that learn that the failure in SDM is actually part of the learning.
now that we've kind of gone over not only some of the more structural changes within education in the workplace that need to be made in order to help women continue pursuing STEM going forward, what are some future goals and aspirations you have within your own kind of paths in regards to STEM? And everyone can kind of go in order, whoever wants to start. Also, it's okay if you guys need some time to think about that, because that's also a very open-ended question.
I can go ahead and start us off. In terms of, I guess for me, not necessarily pursuing STEM, but in terms of continuing to help promote STEM and help to support my other sisters who are pursuing STEM. I serve on the Youth Advisory Council for the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. And so what's really amazing about getting to be on the education and workforce sort of task force is that I've been able to really dive into research surrounding bills in California. So there's this one bill that just really sticks close to my heart. It's called AB 887, and it's by Senator Berman. And so it's actually been proposed year after year for the past 6 years and has just continued to be deferred. And it's actually currently in session, so for the 2026 legislative cycle, which is super exciting. So, that bill just really makes just strives to make improvements for women and girls in STEM education, specifically at the public high school as well as the collegiate level. And so I think just for me, for next steps, just continuing to promote this bill, continuing to work with, my fellow education and workforce-minded individuals on this project is just really a great way to build visibility and awareness around this topic, for people who might not necessarily have heard of it. And so I think if we really work to expand what's happening on a local level to a sort of national level, that would be amazing. And I also urge all of you to join your local United Nations Association chapters. I live in California in Orange County, and so I'm a part of the United Nations Association of Orange County chapter along with Samin, which is actually where we first met. And so, our chapter leader always says, think globally, but act locally, which I think is such a great way to approach just continuing to improve outcomes for STEM education for women and girls.
Thank you so
Great.
much, Kaden, for sharing.
So,
Mahnaz, if
sorry. Yeah, so yeah, I was going to say that agreeing with Kelly, I would actually say that in the future, I hope that I can continue working in field of technology and robotics while also contributing to improving access to STEM education. One of my goals is actually to help create more opportunity for students, especially for the girls who are out there looking for opportunities to explore more science and technology through the hands-on learning. And I would love to develop educational robotics project and organize workshop that allows students to learn programmings or maybe uh, and solving problem solving in a particular way. By doing this, I hope to encourage more young people to see STEM not as only a subject in school, but also field where they can actually invent and create solution for real world challenges. And yeah, my goal is to combine technology, education, mentorship, and help to build a future where everyone has equal opportunity to learn and success in STEM.
thank you, Mahnaz. Samin, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I think my goal isn't as amazing and as detailed as Kaden or Mahnaz's. But my goal is to hopefully create a system where people in countries like the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom, where they have more freedom, can help fund children who want to actually go study in countries like Afghanistan, Iran, the Middle East, or any country really. Because there was a foundation, I don't know how, if they're still active now, where you could help pay for a child's school supplies or tuition. And for a couple of years, my parents funded two children, but with the sanctions on Iran and with the increasing cost of everything, both children had to go back to supporting their family. So I mean, I would love to help better the economy of countries, but that's a very big goal. So I think maybe starting either a foundation or help, or when I get to a stage where I make a lot of money or just some money, I can help fund some children in countries that want to go study in universities, be it STEM, be it humanities, be it anything else, really.
Thank you, Samin, for sharing. And honestly, just to say, I don't think that any goal is too big or too small. So I'm really enjoying hearing everyone's ideas. Masa, did you want to go ahead and go as well?
Okay, so for me, it's most of us, I think, in a most of country, getting education is the big challenges, even though we're about talking about, what if we're talking about the, like in a, sorry. So it's like about talking about the technology or sciences measures. So I think we have to, and my goal is like to be a person, leadership of those people that are actually want to be in this field, because the time that I was started, there wasn't anyone. So when I was stuck in somewhere, I couldn't find anyone that like motivate me to continue. I want to be the person that motivate other people and on their on this field, especially in robotics and software engineering, or even CS. So I think my goal is this one, and I think about that.
Thank you so much, Masa. And I also wanted to give everyone the opportunity, if you have questions for any of the panelists, to please enter them in the chat, because I think in a little bit we'll be wrapping up and kind of moving to more of an open-ended Q&A as well. But I also just wanted to give Mahanaz and Masa a chance to talk about the project that you both are working on as well. Lauren, if you want to help out by kind of aiding in presenting the little slideshow that they created as well. And Mahanaz, you're more than welcome to kind of start talking about this at any point.
Okay, so I would just wait a little bit more for so I can see. Okay. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to introduce you to our project. As you know, like the project is actually started to expand STEM access to robotics education. Me and Mahsa are part of Afghan Dreamers robotic team, and then it's robotic for education started originally in 2020, but then we had to maybe leave it due to some condition that we faced in 2021. So we just stopped it there. And then again, taking it back in 2025, we have worked on some new project, which I can actually show you in the next slide. Yeah, so here's the picture of me, Mahsa, and another girl, and we could actually start it in 2025, as Mahsa has already mentioned. By our own budget, we have tried to create or invent some type of robot that we actually learned before, so we can maybe recall everything that we have learned, and also kind of help the give up some workshop for the students who are actually passionate about it, so we can maybe help them giving more information. And then for the next slide, I could actually introduce you to the project that we can call it a line tracking robot. So what is actually a line tracking robot is that robot that can follow a specific path, usually a black line on the floor automatically, and it uses so much sensor to detect the line, adjust it with movement, and stay on a path. And then those robots are commonly used on technology, robotic, and then programming and automations. And then with the next slide, you can see the actual robot itself that we have worked on it. And yeah, so here it is. We have worked it, and then it is actually working out very well. We had asked to a couple of more people for some more information, but then successfully, with the help of NASA, we could build it up, and then it's working very well. And we have it with ourselves. And yeah, so we do have one upcoming project, which is called hand sensor or hand follower robot. And what is an actual hand follower robot is that a robot that can detect and follow the movement of human hand instead of following a line, the ground. So the robot moves beside on a position of a hand placed in front of it, which we are actually excited to maybe introduce in a future, but we are still work on it, and we are facing a little bit problems, but still me and Masa are passionate to continue it and maybe give up away some workshop for the student who are really maybe actually enjoying, or maybe they are passionate about this stuff, so we can maybe give them more information. And then the next slide would tell us about the impact. It's like they encourage girls to explore more examples, and then it builds confidence and technical skills. It can promote teamwork, creativity, and invention. And then what we can actually ask for is like you can maybe contact us. And the next slide, we do have one email address. So this is the future goal that we have already talked about. So the contact, if you want to contact us, this is the email that we have. We are open for any cooperation and opportunities. And if you have any questions, we can maybe answer them in the chat box.
Thank you so much for sharing your project. It's very cool. And honestly, for those who don't know about the Afghan Dreamers, they are an award-winning all-girls robotics team from Herat, founded in 2017 to promote STEM education. Most of the young women on this team are anywhere from age 12 to 18, and they initially gained international recognition for competing in global robotics challenges and designing low-cost ventilators, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. I know that this was something that was paused in 2021 due to the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, so I'm so happy to see it kind of come back to life through all of you. And yeah, I mean, that was honestly the last question that I had for everyone. If anyone else, including you, Elahijan, had any questions for the panelists, we can kind of create an open-ended conversation as well.
Oh,
Joanne, if you want to go ahead and go.
Yeah, so I was curious, for you girls who are already taking your steps forward, like what would you say to those who are kind of, where you were maybe a few years ago? What would you leave them with?
Honestly, adding on to that, I think each of you should give a little piece of advice for all women wanting to pursue STEM. Whoever wants to start. It's a little bit of pressure. I apologize.
I can start. One piece of advice I would give all the girls around the world is that people in society are going to put down almost anything that you do, and people can say, "Oh, you're doing something wrong." No one's gonna agree with you 100% no matter what you do. So just do it anyways, because you only live one life. And if you live your life to the dreams of someone else, you won't be able to experience everything that you want to.
Thank you so much, Samin. Did anyone else have anything they want to share?
Okay, so I will say that to them. It's like in Afghanistan and these countries that mostly are the people are starting to shut down the girls mostly. I say that sometimes you have to cross the line, because if you're not crossing the line, you don't know what's happening actually around you. So it's sometimes good to cross the line.
Thank you so much, Masa. Mahanas, what about you?
Well, I think that my advice would be like to stay curious, not to be afraid of failure and keep experimenting. And then STEM is a field where learning comes from trying, building, and improving. But constantly you would get whatever you want, and hopefully you would have people around you to support you and always cheer you up. So stay curious and then do whatever you want.
Just to quickly add on to all of you amazing panelists here, I'd just say as well, I'd love to add on to your points, I mean, of just not being afraid to enter the STEM force and continuing to enter the STEM workforce as well. But I also think that forming a community of girls around you who are like-minded, who are also pursuing STEM is really valuable, because a lot of the time, it's when we actually join together with people who are able to support us that we're able to make true change. So thank you so much.
Nehajan, can I say a few words?
Of course.
Question. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for participating. Amazing panel. And I want to give really a shout out to Kaden, who brought the idea to us, and Women's Intercultural Network, and took the leading role in organizing this panel. We know that my major was, at the time at Tehran University, was computer science. I was one of the first group that went to Tehran University for computer science, although I wanted to be an architect, but I was accepted in a different faculty. As Samin mentioned, getting to university in Iran is very difficult. There is an entrance examination, and they say it's harder than Harvard or other Ivy League school in the United States. But despite, I just want to share that despite significant global progress in expanding access to education and gender gap in science, technology, and engineering and mathematics remain very persistent, stubborn. We have a big gap in gender representation in these fields. Today, as shared, less than 1/3 of the world's graduate in STEM fields are women. One of the research that I did in early 1990s and presented to the National Association of American Association of University Women, which the number of the girls in STEM was one of their projects, was that interestingly enough, as Samin mentioned, women don't have a lot of chance to get into workforce in countries in the West Asia, including Iran or other countries. However, the representation of women in those fields in Iran, at least that I know, is much higher than United States. So 60% of the universities in Iran are women. Many women have large representation in a STEM field. However, when they graduate, they don't have a good chance to get a job. And as Samin mentioned, between 10 to 15% of women can participate in the workforce for their profession. That's why when they come here, they have a really good chance to use their education and get good jobs, get high, high in position of leadership and other things. So but Women's Intercultural Network, I do recall clearly as I attended the fourth International Women Conference in Beijing, China. At the time, young women leaders were one of the focuses that I was really interested. And I believe these conversations and highlighting the work that being done like by panelists that we have, some of them here, we have the pleasure to host this session, is really towards that goal that young women leaders, we want women leaders to move forward in STEM research, in STEM education, and taking the leadership so they can also open the door for more younger women. Again, thank you all of you. Thank you, Kaden, for organizing and bringing this idea. And we are planning to pay more resources in young women leaders and particularly within the STEM in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elahijan. Thank you, Kaden, again for organizing all of this. And it's been an honor to host everyone here, to moderate everyone. Does anyone have any other questions or last minute comments that they want to add before we wrap up the panel?
Just a big thank you to everyone for the courage and their transparency with their stories, their challenges, and the hope that they bring. So thank you to all the panelists, and thank you to Kaden for organizing.
And I want to support what Jumri and what Elahi just said, those of us who were back in Beijing in 1995 and to see the youth. And I wrote in the chat how encouraged I am with today's panel to see all of you young women talking about this issue, whether or not specifically on STEM or, as Caden was saying, as a supporter of young women in STEM. And I hope you have a project description of what you are doing so that we could circulate it among us. I see there's someone here from the UK here, and so that we can circulate it widely among, for example, the CSW, CETA, because it talks about education for girls. The Human Rights Council meets in Geneva to see how broadly we can talk about these issues. And I think I remember hearing news years ago about the Afghan robotics team and stuff. And so you're reminding me of what I had heard, and I had wondered what happened after that in terms of the team. And so here you are talking about it. So thank you so much for this session. And thank you, Neha, for moderating, and for all of the panelists, for Elahi, our leader of the Women's Intercultural Network, for uh, we have Gail James here, and we have June Marie from the Women's Intercultural Network. So thank you so much for this presentation today.
Thank you so much, Julianne. If no one has anything else to say, you guys are more than welcome to leave whenever. But again, it's been an honor to moderate this today. I'm so excited to see where we all go from here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Bye.
Thank you.